That's good. Tom? Hi, I figured you were the Wellfleet. Really? You want to call in or? No, so you really need to use your own account. No, it's the town account. Oh, you mean it's, well, why is it named that? Okay. Well, you can sign out of that and then maybe I'll ask Christine to call you. That way you can do it, try and do it, or just try and call in. I have to start the meeting. All right. Hi.
Someone having trouble getting in?
Online at capeandislands.org. We're serving the Cape, the coast, and the islands.
Sorry about that. So there's Tom. Oh, good. Tom, I think it's working. All right. Let me just quickly. So welcome to the recycling committee meeting. It's 11 o'clock. Do we have a quorum? No, we don't yet. So we're waiting for either Jane or Nancy. Jaya said she'd be late. It's Tom. Hey, Tom.
Hey, Lydia.
Hi.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy 2022.
Hey, everyone. Hope everyone's avoiding this nightmare.
So far, so good.
Which nightmare is that? I'm in Oregon.
Omicron. We had a family it was in my family last week. I didn't get it though,
Oh, goodness.
but Christmas was ruined, but it's fine. Everyone's fine now, but
That's good. So is it getting pretty bad in Wellfleet or?
bad everywhere. I know a lot of people have it in New York and a lot of people up here I know have it. So
Uh-huh.
I just heard through the grapevine that a lot of people have it, but I don't know personally. anyone that-
Yeah.
I was diagnosed with COVID on November 4th, but I got sick on the 2nd, went in and got tested and it came back positive and I was really, really sick and I'm fully vaccinated. So it was, what are they called? The breakout cases when you're vaccinated and you still get it, but it wasn't any of the new strands, at least not, they didn't say any of it was.
Mhm.
I got tested positive yesterday.
You did? Oh, Tom. Huh?
Oh,
Yeah.
Tom, I'm so sorry.
Bummer.
Yeah, my wife had it on the 22nd, so Christmas was a disaster.
Mm.
And then I got a sniffle. So I went to the doctors. I told them, hey, my wife had COVID. They said, well, before you come in, let me check you. And sure enough.
Yeah.
So all I got is a sniffle.
Mhm.
But it's everywhere. All my friends have it. It's crazy. But not serious illness.
Mhm.
Good.
Well, managed to get cross country and stay. My biggest challenge was my family here in Oregon, extended family is not all vaccinated. So we had a pretty tumultuous and uncomfortable Christmas. But anyway.
Oh, there we go. Here's there. Okay, Jane and Nancy have joined us. It means we have a quorum, so it's 11:03 and we can start our meeting. Maybe we'll, Jane and Nancy, should we wait until there's the video? Hey, Jane. You're muted, so just in case you wanted to unmute.
There's
How's
snow
that?
in Wellfleet?
Snow, no, sunshine, brilliant
Oh,
sunshine.
okay, this is what I got.
Blue sky.
Snow.
Oh, it looks
Yeah?
beautiful.
Oh,
We
it
were
is,
gonna
yeah.
get some yesterday, but there was
Yeah.
nothing.
It's
Where are
snowing
you?
all day.
Where are you, Christine?
I'm in the Cascades in Oregon,
Okay.
and there's
What do
lots
you
of
have?
snow.
What do you have? Weather-wise?
It snowed all day yesterday, and it's been snowing most days since I've been here, almost 2
Are you
weeks.
there? Well, are you there to ski or what?
Well, I'm here to visit my sister, but we're
Oh,
also
okay.
going to be skiing. So far, we've been snowshoeing and hiking. But,
Making snowmen and snowballs. All right, so let's get the meeting started. Welcome, everybody. Are there any announcements from anyone? I have one about the Martin Luther King Day. There's the event in Wellfleet, at 11:45. And there's also Care for the Cape and Islands is doing beach cleanups all over the Cape and Islands. So if you go to their website, and I forwarded the invitation to register. So, or you could, just do the beach cleanup on your own.
Can you, what's the time of where's the place, the MLK event?
That's in Wellfleet Center on the 17th, Monday, January 17th, Martin Luther King Day. And that's
And what time is the beach clean assembling?
the beach cleanup is really, you can go anytime. They're
Okay.
doing there is a registration. So if you follow that link to register, you can find out if there's one in Wellfleet or nearby.
Well, I think it's the America. Is it the same as the America Corps?
yes.
Yep,
think
it's
I've
Care for
already-
the Cape and Islands working with AmeriCorps and Center for Coastal Studies.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
All right, we got a email from Mike, and I'll bring that up. He's not able to join us today, and Jaya said she'd be a little late. But Mike had an update on the, let's see, on the transfer station. So won't be able to make the meeting today. Some quick updates from the transfer station. In 2021, we saw 6.34 tons for food waste compost. That's 6.34 tons. In 2020, we saw 4.4 tons because of the plague closures, the pandemic. 2019 only had 5.63 tons. So we've seen an increase in food waste composting since the program began. For holiday lights, they filled a 96-gallon container. He hasn't weighed it yet. But that's all going to be getting recycled. The holiday string lights, they strip them and they recycle the metal parts. And now that it's snow season, it's a good time to remind folks that if it's snowing, the transfer station may be closed so that the staff here can assist with snow and ice removal. If you wake up and find that several inches of snow have fallen overnight, there may be a delayed opening. It's a good idea to call first in those instances. So that might be an item for Chris for social media or other things that we can think of them. Energy and Climate Action Committee. Carol, thanks for joining us today.
Hi there. Apparently, the grid was connected. Must have
Moment.
been at the end. Fabulous after all this time. So
Did everyone catch that? It was a little, no. Could
The
you?
grid was connected.
The
solar
grid's
grid?
connected. That's the message. Yeah.
at the
Okay.
end of November,
Awesome.
yeah.
There was an article in the Independent about it, and But when is there going to be like some festivities to celebrate that?
I don't know of any. Take champagne to the dump.
I can't do that, but something close maybe. All right, thank you. Any other news?
We're looking at grants around electric vehicles. Would you like to guess what a electrified school bus costs?
Probably
200,000?
800,000.
It's 330,000. I was appalled. But
Yeah.
we're hoping, the buses are privately owned, but we're hoping to connect with the company that handles that and try to get at least some of it electrified.
Mhm. There's, I know Provincetown has a lot of Prius in their traffic control department. And
Town vehicles. I'm sorry, who, what? Lydia?
Provincetown has a lot of Prius in their traffic enforcement fleet.
Yeah, we're also looking at electric vehicles for the town, and we're gonna talk at the select board tonight, apparently, about that.
Oh, good. I just want to mention one other thing about that is the trucks. The Ford has a big F-150, I think it is, their most popular truck that's going to be electric within a couple of years. And from what I understand, there's a huge waiting list for it. So the town might want to consider getting on that list sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I also read that in some materials from UMass that there's a company that converts existing gasoline trucks to be at least partially electric.
Interesting. Great.
Might want to look into that too.
That sounds like a great thing to keep an eye on for sure. Annual town report. So that's due February 1st. And I shared with Christine all of the agendas just from the town website. So what we'll do is look through the agendas just to make sure we capture all the things that we worked on during the year. There were 12 meetings, and then there was one working group meeting that was with some of the other towns, like East Truro, when we were talking about the refill Cape Cod program. So
I'll do a draft next week and get that to you, Lydia.
that sounds good. One of the great things that happened is that Nancy joined us in January 26, 2021. So that was a nice way
And
to start
Olivia,
the new year.
and Olivia, did you join in May? Was that your first meeting?
August.
Oh, it was August. Okay.
Olivia in August, right? That's right. So then we must have had, I think Beth might have left in 21, or was it in 20?
It was 21. She didn't attend
21.
meetings, but her term was over January 21.
Right. Good. So Olivia and Nancy, two great things that happened in 2020.
Yes, indeed.
Thanks.
We have a full, 7 members, which is nice.
Is
Annual-
that Joe, Nancy?
It is.
Say hi to him for me. Nancy's my hero because my husband's plane was delayed getting back, so she took care of our dog for 2 days because our
So
sitter
that's
was
your
going
dog.
out of
And
town. Yes.
He
Oh,
can
that's
see you.
nice.
Maybe he can see you.
I can
It was a
probably hear you.
pleasure. It was a pleasure.
Annual calendar notes. I think I added a couple things to it. Let's see if I can bring it up.
I'm sorry, I'm kind of unplugged, so I forgot to look at calendar notes.
Oh, that's okay. I just added something about in March, we could create printouts and digital content for summer season boaters. In March, they send out their renewals for moorings, etc. So that's a good time to create some content for the harbor master and marina. And I spoke with Will Sullivan today about it. They don't do any mailings. Most of their stuff goes out by email. So he'd be willing to provide to do that with us, or to have some signs, some printed matter at the harbor master's office itself. So that would be good for this, early spring of March. And I did just want to note that in the community preservation application deadline is October. There's that. Mass DEP Barnstable County Cape Cod Commission, Carrie Parcell is here, so let's hear from Carrie.
Yeah, is there anything specific? So basically the town of Wellfleet, with a couple other towns, decided to keep their Christmas lights and put it into the scrap metal piles. So AmeriCorps will not be picking up as part of the quote Cape Cod program, but you're listed as part of the 15 towns and just general that you recycle them. There was an article that came out in like Cape News talking about Sandwich-born, Mashpee, Falmouth, but again, it says the 15 towns. So you're recognized as recycling, just not necessarily utilizing AmeriCorps. The boat shrink wrap recycling program for 2022, Wellfleet has graciously been part of that program. We want to sort of expand what you do with the container rather than Mike sort of providing a container, because it makes things a lot easier for him. So because he's been doing it as sort of a partial, we want to kind of expand what Wellfleet's role is, as far not duties per se, but making it easier. So that's going to be in the works coming up soon. We've got an article came out about recycling Christmas trees and what the towns are allowing to do. I sent out an email asking all the towns what they were doing and if they were charging residents or non-residents, or if they had to have a sticker, or if there was a fee. And so far, basically, everybody's letting anyone bring in their trees for free with or without a sticker, and then they go into the brush piles to be shredded, and that's given to the residents for free. So that seems to be the consensus. So those are kind of like the holiday programs that are going around. With the feasibility study. So Patty, Michelle, and I are still continuing to be part of the core steering committee. We're holding a quarterly review meeting on January 11th at 10:30. That's with DPW and transfer station staff. I'm going to set up a recycling committee meeting probably in the next few weeks. Just to kind of share information with recycling and committees and commissions. Basically, we're putting together the plan of action and the action steps that Patty, Michelle, and I are going to work on, so that we don't just drop the fact that the study is quote over with our two vendors. We want to take their recommendations and present that to the commissioners and the Assembly of Delegates and to the commission itself. We've been bumped several times off of their agendas because of budget season and that 43 million or something coming in that they're kind of battling over at the moment. So they've been bumping our presentation. So it looks like February, but we were supposed to do it back in December. So we've been bumped several times. But we did present to the recycling committees and the DPW and transfer stations for those that joined us on, I think it was December 2nd. We had our vendors present. So this next time, it'll just be Patty and Michelle and I presenting what our vendors gave us at a very high level, because these presentations have to stay fairly short. So we're still working on that, but the primary with the feasibility is asking municipalities to find a representative as sort of a liaison in an informal, steering, working group, because we need, the boots on the ground and folks that are enveloped in this sector to be able to sit with us and to provide information and to maybe even help glean information that I might need that I can get. But sometimes my bandwidth doesn't allow me to get as much information as if maybe I had a steering committee and can sign sort of roles for their town and say, hey, can you talk to the powers that be and get me this information, et cetera. So it will be informal because we don't want to take up anybody else's time more than we need to. So that's kind of really what's going on. Solid waste master plans out. So textiles, mattresses, and the food waste ban, you'll be seeing those changes coming up. I think overall, programs are starting to come back in a way. I mean, I think they were there, but they're starting to expand and improve. Grant season is rolling around again. So we'll be seeing new grants. Wellfleet received RDP. They do every year. They do really well in the number of points that they receive. So that's great because it's based on a best management practices program, and that worksheet is something that Mike gets to check off every year to get points for the town and to earn funds to expand and to create and to implement new programs and to improve upon the programs that you already have. So I think this year everybody's going to be working a little bit extra hard. Just because there seems to be a little bit of competition in the air this year that didn't exist within the last 5 years of working with the municipalities. So kind of an interesting dynamic. So yeah, I'm sure, Mike keeps you posted and I'll keep you posted on where the municipality is with that. And, Mike and I will be in touch with probably Jay about any small hanging fruit, low hanging fruit items that you might be able to do just to gain another point. But like I said, Wellfleet does really well in general. So some of the points that, you're reaching for are a little bit harder to get to. And I think that's why sometimes.
Thanks, Carrie. Good. So we know one thing that was not good news was that the micro grant, we didn't receive that. And Tom is here as well. And maybe Tom wants to say a little bit about that at the beginning of the meeting. So in case he doesn't have time to stay through the whole meeting.
Yeah, yeah, thanks, Lydia. Geez, how do I position this? The micro grant, the Commonwealth came back and asked me to get with a few of the grant holders and see if I could get some explanations on some more, reporting. And quite honestly, because of the tides, and I really couldn't get a hold of anybody, I just couldn't respond quick enough. They wanted to ensure, one of the big questions they wanted to ensure that the bungee cords would have some sort of life. And I couldn't figure out how many we would lose. And talking to one or two of the guys, they just didn't know. Like, for example, they wanted a return of 95% of them, and we just couldn't get our head around whether or not we would lose them or could we make that bar.
Mm-hmm.
But here's a piece of the good news. I met with one of the grant holders, a huge grant, and he has derived a bungee cord system that, quite honestly, he wants to start marketing out to the other grant holders. If you think of a bungee cord, one end here, and then the bungee would go around the bag. Okay, so the bungees would secure to a bag with metal ties, so eliminate plastic. And then at the end of it, so it goes up like this, and then the end of it would go around the bag and also around the rack and secure to the bag.
Mm-hmm.
So that would eliminate a ton of zip ties. This individual has no zip ties on his grant anymore. He buys a long line of bungee, and then just cuts it and makes them in his spare time. Other people have seen it and they like it.
Mm-hmm.
Because it not only secures the bag, but it secures the bag to the rack. So I got to rethink this, Lydia and Christine, because I think this might be a good possible solution to our zip tie problems. I talked to two other guys through some worker bees, and they're not even using zip ties anymore. They enjoy the bungee balls, or they enjoy the bungee cords, and they found that it's more reliable.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I don't know if we caused that or they just started using it, and And they're getting great results, and they seem to be lasting a lot longer.
Mhm. Well, that's positive. I don't know if there's things the Shellfish Advisory Board or SPAT can do to promote them even more, or
Yeah, I'd have to think about that, but I I gotta talk to, let's see if the individual does create a business.
Mhm.
He does create a business, and he hires somebody to start building these bungee cords. Yeah, I think that might be pretty positive for us.
So Tom, is there, I mean, if Mass Dep's big issue was retention, it sounds as though that system eliminates loss almost entirely, right?
Yeah,
But
because
it doesn't address the longevity of the bungees in the field. Are they concerned about that, or is it just loss?
nah, they were concerned about loss.
Okay.
And I didn't feel comfortable just coming up with a number and proposing that. It just wasn't right.
Yeah.
And then the tides, the tides were all screwed up. They were late tides, and we just couldn't get out to the individuals we had to get out to talk to.
Well, I mean, I guess one option would be to resubmit with this idea of that you just explained, and then just the funds could help convert, the rest of the grants.
I think, no, I agree. I think we could go 50-50, quite honestly. We could do 50% of the money would go to bungee balls, and then 50% would go to the bungee, that new bungee cord.
Mhm.
The interesting thing is, when I saw it, the Shellfish Advisory Board chair was with me when we made a visit out there. And Nancy was there. I'm not sure Nancy saw it, but Nancy Chavetta was with us when we were talking to a couple of the individuals.
Yeah.
But I was impressed, and it solved two problems, right? It solved the amazing thing was, I asked him how many times has he touched that bag.
Uh-huh.
All right, and he said 20 to 25 times a year. So just think of the 3 zip ties holding it together, and then 2 4 zip ties holding it to the rack. That's quite honestly 7 zip ties getting cut, and probably 5 of those going into the ocean, quite honestly. So times 20, that's 100, that's 100, 140, 150 zip ties, times, say you got 500 bags out there. You're talking a lot of plastic.
Sure. They just clip the zip tie, and then either
Right, they clip it, and then it falls down, and then they go look for it, and it's it's in the mud. And sometimes they find it, sometimes they don't.
That's the
And
kind
that's
of
the problem I think we're all experiencing.
could get ingested by all kinds of sea creatures.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
So
Tom.
I just
Maybe
I'm using a grant out in front of my house, and I have a young man. I have Ross who did the work on the plastics, and we're not using any zip ties out there. Just to give you an idea, I mean, you can survive without zip ties.
Maybe
pretty cool.
an article in the paper or something about that itself could be a way to go, something to consider.
Yeah. I was thinking about with the Shellfish Advisory Board, I was thinking about, it's got to come a time where we say, even if you do a new grant, which we don't have many of, but maybe you start it then, that any new grant's got to have the following equipment.
That's a great idea.
Tom, Tom,
Yes.
can you just remind us what was the question that the state asked you that you felt you couldn't answer? I'm just wondering if you're just being too honest for your own good.
Yeah, the state wanted a retention number. So if you gave a grant 100 those bungee balls, how many would you retain over the year? All right, so how many would you get back? What the state didn't want is hey, we just gave Wellfleet, $5,000, and now all of a sudden we got all these bungee balls out in the ocean. So I understand where they were coming from. The problem I had was I just couldn't get my arms around enough people with the tides and all that stuff and the timing to get real accurate answers.
I'm
Well,
not sure that real accurate is what they needed. They probably just needed a,
Yeah, they honestly, they wanted to use 95%. We got to a 95% number because as I thought about it, 95% probably was a good number to use, but I didn't want to put the guys and gals in a spot.
I see.
I could see when you report all this stuff, you're going to report that, somebody came back with 93. And, and I got to write that person up. And they had no input into it. That was my problem.
yeah.
Well, if it were a pilot program, then you could actually test it, see.
Yeah.
'Cause otherwise, it's kind of guessing because no one's really, there's some people using them, but
Yeah. So I think they told me the next one's gonna come. Quite honestly, I think if I put 95% down and say go with it, I think we would have got it, quite
Yeah,
honestly.
that's what I'm thinking.
Right.
Yeah.
well, you want to have some data to back up your.
Yeah.
Perception.
So I think the next one I believe is due, Christine is due in March. And I think I'll have enough time to get my head around the new Bungee design. And maybe we do 60% Bungee balls and 40% the new design, something like that, or
Maybe
70-30.
Does the cord cover multiple bags? Maybe that's just in itself a better thing than individual bungee balls.
Yeah,
Does
the cord would cover one bag,
Oh, just one bag,
But-
okay,
but the ball, you would need 2 or 3 balls for that one bag.
okay.
So it's I think I've seen it in action. It looks pretty good.
Maybe do a video of it or something, that would be good, maybe just educational video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I gotta get a feel for how many people are using it.
Mhm.
And the individual thinks he could make a ton of them during the winter months when they're doing nothing and sell them. So
All right. Well, thanks,
we'll
Tom.
see.
That's a good update. I'm, a little bit more encouraged.
And Tom, congratulations on whatever forces moved this along, that it's moving along. Sounds like naturally. So,
Yeah, it's moving along.
yeah, that's great.
Third time.
Yeah, I'm impressed with the ideas that are coming forward when this individual was on my list as one of the 10 individuals. So that's why I reached out to him and her, combination husband and wife. And they said, well, I said, here's the bungee balls. And they said, I got a better idea. So
Right.
the individuals are getting creative out there. I think the majority of them understand the plastic issue and don't want to be part of it. Right. So it's a pretty creative group.
Mhm. That would be a great thing for SPAT to highlight too.
Yeah.
In terms of.
Yeah. And I don't know if you know this, I am on the SPAT board.
We do know that.
And our president, Nancy, her husband is a big user of the bungee balls. I don't even think he uses plastics at all either, but don't quote me on that, but I know he uses a lot of bungee balls.
I went to his grant. He doesn't use any plastics anymore.
Is that?
I went on a tour of his grant this summer and he doesn't use any plastics.
Yeah, okay, good.
That is good.
Yeah, maybe we're having good results out there. We really don't even know about it.
Mhm.
So that's one thing that we gotta take a look at.
Again, a video or some photos, would be a good thing.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
Um,
get somebody on the independent to give
mhm.
it some space.
Yeah, that's a good idea. All right, so thank you, and thanks to Carrie too for the Mass DEP piece of this agenda. We can go now to public, and thank you, Tom, for taking the time to join us. And
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Lydia, I'm gonna bow out and hopefully I don't screw yourself.
wait a second, because you're actually listed as because I have to, all right, you can go.
Can I go?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I see you took over. All right, thanks, everyone. Happy New
Bye.
Year.
Happy New Year.
The next thing is Public Works refill stations progress. I think Christine has some progress to report.
I do.
Yeah, it was the-
Oh, the right, the DPW. Well, so DPW put $20,000 into their FY23 budget for refill stations. The first meeting with the with the select board, they questioned it and really weren't sure. So they deferred it until the following meeting when we could be present. So we were present at the next meeting, and they approved it. They just weren't really clear about what it was for. So that means that, so it's not clear yet how we'll be working with DPW in terms of, possibly, well, definitely for installation costs, to help with installation costs on what we've currently got. And then potentially to sort of, I don't know if we can join our funds in any way, but we'll figure out how to work together to get, well, certainly to get the town hall done, and also the harbor master. Lydia, you didn't happen to mention the refill station when you were talking with okay.
No, I was simply talking about, the idea of getting
Yes.
information
Okay.
out. But-
So it's still open how we're going to fund the two sponsored refill stations, the installations, and whether we will proceed with with the marina installation, or, Olivia had a great idea to move it over to the beach house, which is under DPW domain rather than the enterprise fund for the harbor. So we'll re-engage with Jay in February to start working on plans going forward.
And that 20,000 would be up for approval at town meeting. They were putting things on the warrant, isn't that right? Or was it the operating budget of
It's well, it's in their budget,
Okay.
in the DPW budget, is a budget line.
Okay. Well, thanks. That was really important progress there. Swap shop, new building. I'm not really sure where we stand on that. The idea was to have maybe the building inspector look at the old building. From the minutes, I just gleaned that.
Yeah, I think Roland said that, well, Jay from DPW had suggested that we have the building inspected and see if there are any safety issues that we could address in the interim until FY24, when DPW will include hopefully sufficient funding for a new
So that's
swap shop.
We'll
So
keep
Roland
that
has taken that as an action item to engage with the building inspector and try to get some kind of a report or safety concerns.
Right. Waste reduction, review of local events. I don't think there were any local events that we participated in the past month. Plastic reduction initiatives, the plastic water bottle ban and refill Cape Cod. There's progress there too with the discovery maps. So do you all know the discovery map? It's a map that's really widely distributed. The Wellfleet one covers Wellfleet and Eastham. It's double-sided. And there's also a digital version online. And it's a color map, it's hand-drawn, and we were really fortunate in that they allowed us to include an ad with information on the Refill Cape Cod. It has the Refill Cape Cod decal and also a QR code that links up to the map, the Google map with all of the locations on it, Cape-wide. So that was a real plus. And we were grateful to Lisa Benson of Discovery Maps for having this ad, placing the ad for us. And
So this spring, we should work on some more outreach for the map, and I'm not sure how and when we'll engage with businesses that already do provide water or have in the past. We can visit them and, say, here's a sticker, we can list you if you want to.
All right.
And figure out some way on our website and social media to highlight businesses that are providing free refills.
Good. So reduced aquaculture plastics, we covered that. The bottle bill expansion and universal redemption. I emailed the Conservation Law Foundation today. They have a whole toolkit for promoting the expansion of the bottle bill. It would change it from 5 cents to 10 cents, and it would expand the kinds of containers that would be included. I think single-use containers like water.
So Lydia, is the toolkit for municipalities to put pressure or for
for anyone
individuals?
Individuals really, or municipalities. It's it includes the names and emails of the 4 sponsors in the Mass Legislature, and all kinds of graphics. And I shared it with the committee earlier.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. So if you're interested in, you can. There's also things with social media. You can tweet things. You can share things through email or through Facebook or whatever. And so that's a good thing. I did ask her about if it's a universal redemption, if that's being considered. Because right now I know the vendors kind of struggle with sorting the containers that come to them. I think they have to do it by brand.
By distributor.
Yeah, so that can be a real pain. If it were all one, universal redemption throughout the states that are offering, that have bottle, redemption, it would make their life a lot easier. They do get, I think, a couple cents on every container for their work. So it's not uncompensated, but it's not a lot considering staff shortages and so on. The packaging reusable container survey. So I spoke with a friend who's, or emailed a friend who's on that committee at the Adult Community Center, and she's willing to talk about it. I think since it's a survey, it's I'd like to be able to share that and to get some input from the people that are actually using the program. So let's see where that goes. Community cutlery, library of things. I borrowed some over the holidays and it worked out great. Nancy, those champagne flutes can also be used as wine glasses. They're a little wider than a regular, thin, long champagne flute. So that's kind of a plus for groups that might want a matching glasses. They're 24 altogether, which is quite a lot. And they looked really nice and they worked fine. Discovery map ad, so we covered that. These materials, website and social media posts. Chris Wisniewski's not here right now, but she suggested getting her some material. So what do you want to do?
I added the Martin Luther King Day event to the website. That's my.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you. So maybe she can post that as well. And Chamber of Commerce newsletter, that maybe we should buy an email blast, Chamber of Commerce email blast. They're $35 and it seems like a good way to go.
Well,
So,
we have a credit for one that they
that's
didn't
right.
charge us for the last, I guess it was for the refill.
So what do you think about doing an email blast and what's the subject?
Maybe we should wait for solidification of some campaigns for winter, spring in terms of either refill, or do you have any ideas, anybody?
The textile recycling flyer is almost done. So we could do that. That might be good considering all the turtle situation and yeah.
What is our time cutoff on this?
I think it's flexible. We just want to do something in the next month or two.
Yeah.
Maybe, consider doing maybe quarterly email blasts or something. That wouldn't break the bank.
Mhm, No, it's a very reasonable fee.
Mhm.
Yeah. So how many items might we have off the top of our head that we would put on?
Well, with textile recycling, then in the summer, there could be a water, we could have a water refill update. And then in the fall, think about things that happen in the fall, like Oyster Fest or the Shuck and Run race, things related to that maybe.
Yeah, I think just the way you're talking about is just go through the seasons and what would be the most useful to
Yeah.
put forth to the people.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
It
So-
might also be helpful to talk to them about their newsletters so that we kind of have a better idea of, do they know ahead of time whether they're doing one or whether it's just so much that they're doing several individuals, which has been the last couple of months.
Yeah.
Um,
They do, like their major ones are around the holidays, promoting all the things that happen in Wellfleet,
yeah.
December, January. Yeah, okay. So maybe next meeting I'll have the textile thing done probably in a day or two, I think, get that out. Provincetown independent item or ad. So years back, I think when Kate Myers was on the committee, they had a Provincetown banner. There was a little Provincetown banner thing on recycling. It was about this big. And I'd like to try and locate one of those from the past just to get a sense of what they were publishing, but maybe the Provincetown Independent would do something similar. And it's worth asking them, I think.
Like with a tip recycling tips kind of thing.
Yep, or green tips. It could include not just the recycling committee info, but if the Conservation Commission or, Walkways Committee or other groups wanted to have I guess you could call it an ad. It depends if it could be paid for, or the paper might do it as a public service. So it's another way of getting information out there, which could be helpful. A lot of people locally, read that. And
Well, you know how they have that that section where there's little bits of information about the town. It's I would think it would fit in very nicely there, and that they might appreciate having it,
Yeah.
And do you think there'd also be, could there also be drawings, or would it just be text? Like, could there be images as well? I wonder.
That's interesting because drawings draw the eye, and one picture is worth a lot of words sometimes. I think that's worth finding out.
Yeah, I love the bird that you drew. Did you draw that bird, Daria?
Yes, that was lovely.
Yeah, it was such a meditative, quiet process. It took about 3 hours because I softly kept going back, and we all know, if we've ever put pen to paper, that it's amazing. There's blank, and then at some point there's something like, where'd you come from?
That was beautiful.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess, should we go ahead and maybe reach out to the Provincetown Independent on that, with that idea?
Can I just clarify? Are we asking for a sort of some space every week? Is that what we're asking for? Yeah.
Could be
Okay.
weekly, or could be monthly, could be quarterly, depending on what they're willing to provide, or
So
there's-
would we be asking for us space for us to submit something, or would we be asking them to cover it every week?
I think it's more that we provide some content options, and then they could choose from those options, depending on how much space they had or something like that. What do you think about the idea of trying to share space with other groups in town? Of course, we'd have to start by asking them, but you,
I would be against it for the moment. I think it would complicate it too much.
okay,
Yeah, I do.
Also,
too.
there would, I mean, we want to make sure that it's applies to all the leadership, all their readership rather than just Wellfleet.
yep. it
Yeah,
should-
well, their preview is out of Cape. They stop at the roundabout, don't they? In terms
Yeah.
of coverage. Yeah.
Houston to Provincetown.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it should be,
No,
It's not-
Orleans is in it. Orleans to Provincetown.
no, I think it's.
I think it stops at East.
Is it not? Oh, it does stop at Easton. Okay. Oh, yeah, that's 4, isn't it? Yeah.
But they do something, I mean, they did talk about Orleans matters recently and things, so they.
Yeah, yeah.
But,
Well,
yes,
maybe people could start, sending to the Wellfleet Recycles at gmail.com email address ideas for anything that comes to mind, that we could start sort of compiling a list of ideas for that you could send them as a so that when you talk to them, you can say, these are some of the kinds of things we're thinking about.
yeah, and the recycling committees from the other towns, maybe once we've got a few things going, we could share it with them, and see
Mhm.
what they think.
I keep wondering about other things than plastic bottles. I mean, every time you go to the supermarket to get some more oil and vinegar, it's hard to find them in glass bottles.
Oh,
I don't know, I have no trouble finding them in glass.
Well, you can find them, but I mean, if you look at what's in plastic containers at the supermarkets, it's overwhelming.
It is.
Mhm.
And I don't know if we can just pick something or just, I don't know.
Yeah, send it in to the Gmail, wellfleetrecycles@gmail.com.
I haven't been down to the Green Refill store yet in Brewster. Has anybody been there? Is that what it's called? Green Refill? Remember the truck that used to,
Yeah.
or bus, whatever it was? Anyway, there's an actual store in Brewster now where you can go and get things refilled.
Food things?
You mean like oil and vinegar and that kind of thing?
No, it's like personal care products, soaps, shampoos.
I see.
all
Pura
that shit.
Vida in Eastham does refills for everything. too.
Who
Everything.
does?
Pura Vida in Eastham.
And what do they sell?
They have all cleaning products, dish detergent, everything.
Okay,
refill.
okay.
They make a really good, they have a really good spray cleaner refill. They sell
Oh.
glass bottles. And
Is
so,
that a location? Are they at a location, Olivia?
same shopping center as Ace Hardware.
Oh,
Oh, in Eastham. Okay. Yeah, I've
Sure.
seen it. I just didn't know what it was.
DVD
Well,
stuff.
maybe there's a good article to ask,
do
you
all-
send into the Independent where you can refill stuff.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And they also sell
Sure.
non-plastic cleaning supplies like sponge, natural sponges and biodegradable dish brush and
Uh-huh.
wood toothbrushes and everything that you can.
Oh, awesome. I didn't even know what that was. Thank you.
Great store.
Okay.
Oh, thank you. That's excellent. That's excellent.
Yeah, that would be nice to find out if there are other refill, like, I don't know if the Orleans Whole Food store does any kind of refills or not, but it'd be interesting to find out, see if we could nudge them. Remember the old co-op days when in the 70s,
Oh,
you
God,
could bring all
yes.
your own containers.
There was gonna be a co-op in Wellfleet, they were talking about it before the
Yeah.
pandemic. It was this
I wonder if that died.
Yeah, that would've been so good.
COVID probably killed it.
For now, yeah.
Is there a list somewhere of what products are better to buy? Because like when I'm on the committee, like
Right.
glass, is that easy to cycle now, or like milk, the sort of wax paper container goes in the trash, but the plastic one goes in the
Mhm.
recycle. So like I would think there would be, if there is like, there must be online someplace where the best things to choose, but not the pie in the sky, because we're not always going to get to these refill places.
Right, yeah.
But when you're at a regular grocery store, what are the environmental choices?
Mhm.
Because it's not always obvious to me.
It's not obvious at all. And there is it's not consistent messaging, but what I've gleaned is that if your town recycles plastic, then it's better to go with that than the cartons.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's, landfill versus supporting plastic consumption, so.
And we just talked about oil. I would assume those big cans of olive oil are better than the plastic or glass bottles.
Mhm.
But then they have the
That's a good
little
point.
plastic insert. Does that contaminate the can recycling, you know?
Yeah.
Pop those out, the plastic insert part.
Can
Okay.
you pop them out? Yeah. Well,
Not
that's a
very
good
easily.
idea, Nancy, to all this sort of like what's better for different types
Yeah,
of products and containers.
You think about the weight also, if it's traveling across the sea, or is it traveling from California or from, olive oil, you're going to get that from California or Europe, basically.
Right.
What's hard too is it heavily sprayed with chemicals? What kind of choices are you gonna make there? It's really a tough one, because we spent a lot of time in Greece over the years, and they automatically spray, the government sprays the lower levels, because the higher gets cold enough to kill a lot of the microbes.
Mm.
But there are some places where no matter what they claim, planes go and they spray them. We were there, we
Wow.
saw them. The people had nothing,
No choice.
no say. And up in the hills, the Greek people, which is my inheritance, they're not the Athenians. They're not the ones that really know how to fight the government or talk to the government. So they are at the mercy. And there are places in California also with the almond crops.
Mm. Mhm, mhm.
It's devastating what they do with almond crops. Anyway, I said enough.
Use a lot of water. That's what I remember hearing.
Oh,
but-
gosh, yes.
Yeah. One really important thing is to buy recycled. Like, if you're buying paper products, buy recycled aluminum foil. Look out for those things, and minimal packaging, because every container has, you can buy it with a full clamshell, or you can buy it with a base with just a piece of like cellophane type plastic on top. So that's 50% less than the other thing. That's 100% plastic box. So there's things out there, and compost in the news. I don't know if there's any compost in the news, but Bob is doing, he has a pickup service in Newton, my partner, and it's going really well. He got a bigger container. It started with one about, 18 inches, and this one's more like 24 inches.
That's Black Earth.
Yep. And there's people in the neighborhood, probably 3 or 4 people on the street that do it.
Mhm.
I just read, I think it was in the Independent, somebody who was concerned about rats was saying that it's no longer responsible to have either bird feeders or, compost cages in your backyard.
They
But
said
I have a,
if you see any rats, then you need to take them out. But there's some compost bins that are better for that. The spinning ones that are off the
Right.
ground.
And that article was about sort of downtown Provincetown where, if you have an open compost bin,
Right.
near
yeah,
a
downtown, yeah, I think, yeah.
Okay. Minutes. So Nancy, thank you for those minutes. And did everyone have a chance to read the minutes?
I didn't, but I can approve with edits coming if I have any or comments.
Well, I read it and I propose we endorse them.
Mhm.
Is there a second? Gaia, Carlson, all in favor? So just indicate by saying aye or raise your hand.
I
Okay, thank you. And the accounting report.
that's the town accountant's goal, or temporary accountant's goal is to start doing monthly reports, but that hasn't happened yet.
Okay.
But the only expenses we've had are ones we've discussed in the past that have been submitted. Oh, and Lydia, I still have to, I guess I paid them, the Wix, and there was something else that I paid that I need to send in.
Okay. Correspondence, I don't think there is any. I haven't been to the town hall.
If somebody could check there, because somebody mentioned to me they were looking at all the places in town that you could donate money to, and that person said, oh, recycling committee, that would be a great place to send a check. I don't know if she did or not, but we should probably check.
All right, I'll check there today.
Okay, thank you, Nancy.
You're welcome.
Committee vacancies, 2 alternates remain on the, I mean, we still have room for 2 alternates. And future concerns, I just put the NIPS ban under there as a maybe future concern.
Sounds
And
good.
I think that's everything. The next meeting is February 1st, which is really early. I mean, it's the first day, so got to watch the end of the month. It's always when you don't have any room at the beginning of the month, it's always a little bit of
Yeah,
a rush.
Sneaks up on you. All righty.
All right.
So I'll make sure that agenda gets out without Lydia having to remind me like, oh, it's next week already. And town report,
Yeah, our town report.
annual report. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so I guess a motion to adjourn from somebody.
Yeah, I propose so.
Hey,
Second.
Okay, super.
hey,
Everybody.
All in favor?
thank you very much,
Yeah.
everyone. Yeah.
Thank you. Look
Yes.
forward to seeing you again, Christine, back here.
I'm looking forward to coming back and walking with our doggies.
Where are you, Christine? Where are you?
I'm in Oregon.
Oh, nice. I
Yeah,
love
in the base of the Cascades. So we're hopefully going skiing today.
Good. I love the color on your wall behind you. That is
That,
lovely.
yeah, my sister's an artist, so her house is full of bold colors and beautiful
Wonderful.
paintings.
Oh, the combinations behind you, I've been admiring them. It's
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey,
Take care, everyone. Nice to see you.
yeah, stay well.
Hi, everybody. Happy New Year.
Bye, Carrie.